Through his terrible journey, Lil Scrappy has experienced anxiety, terror, and times when hope felt like a far-off dream. Only a few days ago, the doctors were reluctant to identify themselves, and his family was told that there was no assurance of recovery. Fans eagerly awaited news on the well-being of their beloved musician while stunned and engrossed in their screens. Scrappy's mother was distraught and had been pleading for prayers as social media was flooded with letters of concern, gossip, and even worries that he might never be able to return to the world he had known. In the meantime, close friends were afraid that the worst was coming. Since then, though, everything has changed. Everyone is asking how it happened, what led to this amazing finding, and most importantly, what this means for Scrappy's future. The industry has been shocked by the revelation. Prepare yourself for a comprehensive examination of Scrappy's incredible return, the touching reactions of his family and fans, and the behind-the-scenes conflict that nearly upset the balance. Finally, in a startling and dramatic change of events, physicians have given their approval. As his condition gets better, Scrappy is proving to be more resilient than everyone had thought. All of it. Last night, a close relative who had gone to see Scrappy in bed shared a mysterious message on the internet. Miracles happen when you least expect them to. Keep praying within minutes. His family's sorrows and somber news had kept young Scrappy fans up at night hoping for good news, but now everything was different. After battling for his life, the rapper suddenly began to show signs of recovery. A close family friend who had visited Scrappy in bed late last night posted a mysterious message online that read, "Miracles happen when you least expect them." Despite the lack of official confirmation, excitement was growing as people conjectured that Scrappy was waking up and that the doctors had changed their diagnosis while they were still praying. However, this morning, after being silent for days, Scrappy's mother, Mama D, suddenly gave a video. Her eyes shone brightly scarlet. When the doctors informed us that Scrappy's had a genuine chance of recovering, she broke down in tears. My baby is fighting. He's stronger than they thought," she said. This time she trembled, but it was relief rather than pain. The problem was more complicated behind the scenes than it appeared, but optimism had returned after days of despair. On social media, fans, other rappers, and celebrities expressed their excitement and astonishment despite the doctor's optimism. Getting Scrappy back to normal would be difficult for his family because he was still in danger. It had been an unbearable emotional roller coaster just 2 nights before. Some doctors thought that due to his declining health, his body might not respond to treatment. Throughout the tense hospital room, there were hushed chats, silent prayers, and a deep fear of losing him forever. Bambi's persistent hubby. Prior to his hospitalization, she had been going through a difficult period and battling emotional issues. But now that she was with him and could see the monitors, it made no difference. A buddy added, "I don't care about anything else. I just want him to be okay." And his mother, Mama D, was a strong woman who had done everything she could to secure the best doctors, the best care, and the best prayers. She even got into a fight with the medical staff once. Demanding more severe procedures, according to an insider, she begged the doctor, "You don't give up on my son." Despite the evidence, she had not been deceived. Even the most seasoned medical professionals were astounded by Scrappy's mode of strikeback. Scrappy began to move in the early morning hours after being unconscious for days. Even a small movement of his fingers would be seen by the doctors, believed it to be proof that his body was at last responding, and by midday, a lot more had been done. Even though Scrappy was still feeble, he had managed to open his eyes long enough to look around. He looked confused at first, like he was looking for himself, but then he looked at his mother, and I can tell you that there was recognition in that, said a nurse who had been keeping a careful eye on him. With tears streaming down their faces, family members hurried to his bedside as word of the news spread like wildfire. At last, his daughter, who was too young to comprehend the gravity of the situation, was permitted to visit him and held his hand. His vitals are stabilizing, according to one of the physicians, so there is optimism even if he is still in danger. The family had been braced for the worst when the doctor said, "Daddy, wake up." Constant progress despite the good news, Scrappy still had a significant challenge to face before he could recover completely. His recuperation would be a protracted and unpredictable process, and his body was frail. At this point, his family and close friends were starting to grow tense, and while everyone was happy that Scrappy had been promoted, there was disagreement over what should happen next. The medical team's advice that he follow a strict treatment plan was disputed by certain family members. Since Scrappy's recovery is a miracle and ought to be viewed as such, M, who has always been actively involved in his life, believes that spirituality should be the main focus of his treatment. In order to persuade them to take part in the surgery, she had already contacted a number of spiritual healers and clergy, but Bambi had refused and desired a solely medical strategy. He needs professional treatment, science, and recovery. Now is not the time for experimenting. Despite their own worries, Scrappy's close friends thought he intended to cut off some of the people who had only caused him turmoil and negativity after he recovered. If he survives this ordeal, he needs a fresh start. Their argument in the hospital, she said, turned into a heated argument that almost turned into a fight. After an old friend declared, "No more toxic energy," Scrappy showed up. As he began to regain his strength, he was now barely conscious and had to make decisions about his future. Would he amend with Bambi, do as his mother had advised, or go in a totally new direction that no one could see? Coming. This was by no means the conclusion of the tale. Scrappy was feeling better, and the doctors were cautiously optimistic now, but behind the scenes, the battle for control of his recovery was intensifying. There were disagreements among his close friends, his mother, Mama, and his estranged wife, Bambi, about what was best for him. With a slow awakening, Scrappy was ready to be awakened to the drama that had been developing while he was there. Early in the morning, something happened that surprised everyone. Scrappy, who had been having trouble keeping his eyes open the day before, had just found his voice. His voice, barely audible above a whisper, froze the room. Mama D, who had spent hours sitting next to him, appeared to have been swatted when the mood shifted to one hostility eye. When Bambi heard his voice, she hurried inside after having been outside in the hallway. With tears welling up in her eyes, she whispered, "I'm right here," and grabbed his hand in hers. His eyes opened, and for the first time since his condition deteriorated, Scrappy appeared to be completely aware of his surroundings. The time was limited because everyone left. "I'm here, Scrap. I'm here." Mama D never stopped believing in him, and now his top goal was to spend time with Bambi by himself. He continued in a forceful but clear voice, "I need to talk to Bambi alone." The room waited for a long minute, and his expression darkened as he said it. Mama D slapped Bambi before everyone grudgingly exited the room. "I don't believe we presented any mothers, my dear." He broke off, his tone a bit sharper now. Prior to Scrappy's hospitalization, there were allegations of arguments, betrayals, and probably even infidelity between him and Bambi. She was not alone in her concerns, and she didn't trust Bambi because of everything that had transpired between them. Bambi had already died, according to others, but now that Scrappy was in danger of dying, it didn't seem to matter. She realized she still loved him after seeing him helpless and weak, and all of her hatred and contempt vanished. Did he, however, feel the same way in the hospital room? Scrappy writhed slightly in discomfort and exhaled deeply. Despite his weakened body, his mind was more acute than ever. Since he acknowledged that, I assumed I finished. "Don't bring that up," Bambi suggested. "You scared me, Scrap. You scared all of us. I'm not sure what will happen next, but I need to know if this is the end of it." That night, I refused to get out of bed. When Scrappy stared at her, she couldn't quite see the sight in his eyes, but he whispered, "You scared me, Scrap. You scared all of us." After asking herself the same question for days, Bambi was shocked because she was positive their marriage was over. But suddenly there was a change. "I don't know," she said, "but I just know that I don't want to lose you." But before Scrappy could reply, Mama D entered again, and the door began to open. She was angry because she wouldn't let Bambi handle the problem. "Oh, now you care?" Where was all this energy when you all were tearing each other apart before he got sick? Where was all this love when you were out doing God knows what? Mama D cracked up. Bambi tightened her fists and responded, I've been here just as much as you have. Scratchy baby, you need rest, you don't need stress, and you definitely don't need to be dealing with this right now. The two women said, can't you guys stop doing this now? However, in spite of the difficult situation, they said nothing. In addition, Scrappy was out of the room chatting with his close friends. They were cheering for Mama D because they thought Bambi was only there to capitalize on the limelight that Scrappy's illness had created, and they thought Mama D was being very controlling because she refused to let her son go. At the height of the chaos, an unexpected guest, someone no knew came .me. The hospital door opened at the height of the tension between Bambi and Mama D, revealing a face nobody had anticipated. When Scrappy saw his first child's mother, Erica Dixon, his former lover, he was ecstatic. Bambi rolled her eyes, but Erica ignored it and strode past the chaos to Scrappy's room. What are you doing? Scrappy looked up at her, looking surprised, and Bambi heard her add, now this is the woman who really has his back. In addition, she folded her arms and said, I know you're not feeling well, and I didn't want to leave my daughter's father to handle this alone. He hadn't spoken to her in months, so his presence wasn't shocking. In spite of their tumultuous history, she was always there for them when it mattered. He simply murmured thank you and walked out of the room, which infuriated Bambi. Scrappy was in a battle zone, which is not like other people's homes, so she mumbled to herself, oh, so now she care mama. As his strength gradually returned, it became evident that a whole new battle was about to start. The chaos around Scrappy was more powerful than ever, despite the fact that his body was still weak and worn out and his mind was racing. At once, a fresh concern sprang into his head. Would he ever be able to perform again? Would he ever be able to perform again? Or did this mean that his career was about to end? Within Erica's, Bambi was struggling to control her anger, and Scrappy was beginning to question everything. Assuming the identity of Erica, Mama D stated, Scrap, you don't have to worry over this right now, reigniting tensions that had never really gone away. Ignoring the looks from the corridor, she had sat down next to him and concentrated on getting better. Nothing appeared more elegant than Scrappy rubbing brow. Ow. In addition to his health, he was discussing his life, work, wife, and family, all of which appeared to be in danger of collapsing. When Bambi became tired of standing outside and staring at Scrappy's, she said forcefully, we need to talk, and went back inside the room. Erica did not move, but her forehead lifted. According to Bambi, Mama D, who was pacing the doorway, grinned as if she was anticipating a fight by herself. Erica looked to Scrappy and said, you want me to leave? Scrappy paused, then gave a small nod and said, yeah, let me take care of this. Erica then got up and walked past Bambi. As she left, Bambi gave her a knowing look, but she chose to ignore it since she didn't want to let Erica or Mama D escalate the conflict into another power battle. Choosing to sit by Scrappy's bedside instead lifted her spirits. What kind of question is that? A real one, she replied. Scrap, do you even want me here? He frowned and said, because of the way your mom has been acting and the way Erica just walks in here like she still belongs in your life. He exhaled slowly as he realized how complicated things had gotten and how he and Bambi had been on the verge of splitting up prior to his health scare. She was giving him attention at the proper moment, though, now that she was here. Before he could reply, the door swung open again, revealing one of Scrappy's closest friends. I don't know what's going to happen with us, but I do know that your presence here means something, Bambi said, biting her lip. We're having a problem. Diamond gasped, looking anxious. What happens next? Afterwards, Scrappy groaned. Scrappy said, load the label. What about them? They're considering replacing you, Scrap, Diamond continued after a minute, but they're unsure if you'll recover. In order to avoid taking any dangers, they are already looking for someone else. With panic burning in her eyes, Bambi turned to face Scrappy as the group fell into a thick stillness. She responded, "They can't do that. You're not even out of the hospital yet. I'm inside business." "Don't wait, Bambi," she said. He had worked too hard to let it all go, and now his music was more than simply his career. It was his identity. They need to know if Scrappy's going to be able to perform again, and right now they're not so sure. Diamond nodded, but she disagreed, saying, "I need to talk to them." Scrappy clenched his jaw. In order to inform the label that he wasn't finished, Scrappy had to grunt. He began to sit up, wincing from the agony, but Bambi interrupted him with a palm on his chest. "I don't know what to do, Scrap. You're not ready. If I don't stand up for my viewpoint, they will remove it." With burning eyes, Mama D, who had been listening in, entered and asked, "Isn't anybody?" While Bambi said, "I'll call up those fools myself if I have to," she chose to roll her eyes. "Mama D, haven't you tried? This and a damaged marriage are not easily repaired." Mama D's retribution caused Scrappy's head to pound, and he lamented. Everyone just stared at him and stopped talking because the conflict was becoming worse. The words, "I don't know what's going to happen with me and Bambi," came out of his strained voice. Bambi grabbed his hand once more and struggled for it, scratching it but doing it correctly and improving first. After glancing at his mother, Scrappy turned to face Diamond. It wasn't simple, he hoped, but he felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. There were still challenges for him to conquer and others observing to see if he could succeed, but one. It appears that there is hope at last after a lot of suffering, despite the emotional roller coaster that has been Scrappy's journey. Although the physicians have voiced optimism, the fight is far from done. Will everyone be proven wrong by Scrappy's complete comeback? Will the uncertainties affect his career as a musician? And how are his connections doing? Is there anything more dramatic he can go through? We'll keep you informed if any new information becomes available since this tale is far from done. What do you anticipate happening next? Kindly share your thoughts in the space provided below. To ensure you are notified if there are developments regarding Scrappy's recovery, please click the like button, subscribe, and enable notifications.